What's up, guys? Welcome to the Calvary Chapel Salmon podcast. Super glad you're joining with us today. Hagen, the viewers might be a little confused right now.
That's right. If you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you're thinking things look a little bit different, and that's because they are different.
Just a little, well, actually a lot.
Behind the scenes for at least a month, we've been slaving away at trying to figure out a more effective way to be able to do the podcast, and this is what we've come up with so far.
Yes,
so
we are in the basement of the lighthouse.
Of the K house.
The K house,
yes. In one of the rooms. And we're able to try it out. So we'll see how this one goes.
We got fancy lights. We got fancy cameras. We ordered all this fancy stuff. And
that's right.
Hopefully it goes well.
And we actually just needed to order a little soundboard and these mic stands.
Yeah.
The mics we already had, the cameras we already had, the light we already had. So we're just repurposing things around here.
We believe in recycling.
That's right.
Here on the Calvary Chapel Salmon podcast.
Yeah.
It's very important.
And we've been on kind of a streak lately of having guests on.
Yes.
For the past couple weeks, which is always enjoyable. But Jordan, I thought, you know what? You and me just need to sit down and have a talk.
Yeah. I've been thinking the same thing again.
Okay,
it's just
good.
been too long with all these other people butting their way into our relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad
It's
to
an
get
issue.
some one-on-one time with you.
Yeah.
That's what I've been needing. So.
Good.
Hagen, why do you think we like moved? Like, why are we doing this down here and not on the stage? Like, was the stage not good enough? Or
The stage was okay, honestly, and it got us to episode 20, right? Or 21.
Yeah, like 20, 21, 22, yeah. Something like that.
And there was just a few things. One had to move stuff around. This will be able to set it up and just kind of park it, and we
For
can just
sure.
come in and use it whenever we want. So it'll just be easier that way. And the stage worked okay as well back at the church, but then occasionally you had people just kind of come through.
Yeah.
So this will
Which
maybe,
always kind of added an extra level of excitement, honestly.
yeah, this will maybe cut down on that as
Yeah.
well.
And I believe we'll be able to make this space kind of our own, you know, kind of
yes.
maybe get some fun decorations
Little by
or whatever.
little, we'll add to things, and we'll really make this feel like home.
Yeah.
Which is what we're shooting for, I think. Yeah.
Making it feel like home.
We're just having breakfast across the table together, you know?
Just looking into each other's eyes.
Yeah, you're
yes.
drinking your green drink.
That's my matcha that Avery made for me. It's very good. So
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
That's
To me,
okay.
it tastes like grass.
Well, that's okay.
Would
Yeah.
you, if you had to liken it to anything,
I
would you
really
maybe
can't.
suggest
Like,
grass?
Even this morning, my brother Ben was like, "Jordan, what's matcha taste like?" And I was like, "I don't know. Like, it's kind of a tea almost, but like
It's powder, right?
powdery. Yeah, naturey, earthy. There's earth tones.
Earthy, like grassy, maybe?
maybe.
Yeah.
This one guy, Sammy, who we had on the podcast.
Yes.
He likes, so you can go to the Salmon River Coffee Lounge or whatever, and their matcha is super just like bitter, and I cannot handle it. But he gets it every time he goes over there. So he's like a real matcha enjoyer. I'm like a fake matcha enjoyer. 'Cause
You're
I like,
lightweight.
I like it sweet and creamy and just a little bit matcha taste, not
Yeah.
too earthy and bitter.
Well, that's
So
nice. Well, I'm just drinking water today.
That's good,
Out
yeah.
of my Stanley.
For
I'm
sure.
trying to drink a gallon a day, so I have to really be intentional about that.
wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive.
Maybe we'll talk about that some other time. But
Maybe
today,
yeah, maybe we should. Yeah.
Today-
Hagen, what do we got on the agenda today?
well, we've had some questions that have been submitted over the past little bit, just some different kind of Bible questions. So we thought today would be a good time to kind of just answer some questions that have been submitted, which, by the way, if you're a regular listener or viewer, if you have questions about the Bible or things we talked about previously, you can comment them, and we'll probably discover them 6 months later, and we'll be able to answer them for you. So,
comment, and if you never really get a response, text it to us or
Yeah.
or email it to us, and
Sure.
we'll see it. But yes, if you comment, well, I try and look at the comments. Do you ever look at the comments?
on YouTube, but the other
Yeah.
ones, no.
Yeah, I don't think we get too many of those on the other ones. I don't think. Who comments on the Spotify video?
I don't know, a few maybe.
Oh, maybe. I don't
but-
know. If you do, that's cool. Thank you. Yes, do that. Yes. Well, let's just jump right into it.
What do you got?
Well, let's see. Got a couple. So I'll start with this one. Is it a sin to be cremated? I don't see specifically where it talks against it.
I think as long as you're dead, it's probably okay. If you-
And you're not doing it to someone else.
Yeah, if you try cremation before someone's dead, it might be an issue.
It's funny.
But this is actually a thing that a lot of people ask about.
Mm-hmm.
What about my body when I die? Is there a biblical way, a Christian way to deal with the body, or is it fine to just burn it up and scatter the ashes? Do I need to be filled with formaldehyde and buried and preserved? Like, what's the biblical response? And for a long time in our more recent American culture, to be embalmed was the most popular thing, to have like a casket and you get your blood sucked out and they put chemicals in you and it preserves you for a while, and they put makeup on you and people come and cry over your body and then they bury you in the ground, and that's where you're supposed to be as far as your physical body until you're resurrected. So some people see cremation as an issue when it comes to the resurrection, because they go, well, if I get burnt up and then I get scattered everywhere, like, how's that work as far as me getting resurrected? And the reality is whether if you're burnt up and scattered or you're buried in a box, the same process is going to happen to you over time. I forget who it was, but they say something like cremation does in 60 minutes what being buried in the earth will do in 60 years.
Yeah.
Like, you're from dust you are, the Bible says to dust you shall return. So either way, your body's going to turn into dust. It's either going to be expensive dust or least expensive dust. To have a traditional burial, that's like almost probably $10,000, I bet. Like, it's pretty expensive. You can get cremated for maybe $3,000 or $4,000, which is still expensive. But from all of my reading of Scripture, I don't see any issue with cremation.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's a testament to how powerful God is, that like when the trumpet blows and the resurrection happens, he'll be able to gather every single atom that has Hagen's DNA on it, and they'll all be able to be gathered across wherever they're scattered, whether you have them scattered in Niagara Falls or the ocean or wherever else people like to get scattered. God's going to be able to gather all those dust particles and get you back together and resurrect you into a new body. So it's like we're not the same when we're resurrected. So that's a whole other interesting thing. Like we get this upgrade. I think it's still the same body, though.
Right, like Jesus is. Yeah. Like, he's resurrected. The body that was dead in the tomb is the glorified body.
For sure.
But it is an
just
upgrade.
With an upgrade, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, over the, thousands of years, people have been, died at sea, eaten by sharks, eaten by bears. Like, people just get scattered around their bodies. And to be concerned, like, well, Jesus is just going to have a hard time resurrecting me unless I'm all kept together up in the cemetery. That's just not how it's going to work.
He can get you.
We don't need to worry about that. And there's really nothing, no instruction in the Bible as far as you need to take care of your physical body after it's dead so that it's easier for Jesus to resurrect you. Like, it's silent, which tells us it's not something we really should be concerned about. Yeah. So whenever someone comes and asks me if they're considering maybe being cremated, I tell them as long as they're comfortable with it and their family, like, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you're going to be cremated when you die?
Probably maybe bear food.
Oh, really?
I think I'll get eaten by a bear.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that'll
You
do
just
me
want to, like, okay, my body's dead, just find the nearest.
No, I'll die getting eaten by a bear.
Oh, okay. I thought it was going to be like a ceremony or something. Like, watch me get eaten by a bear.
Yeah, probably cremation, but I kind of don't even care.
Yeah.
I don't even want to guess. I don't even want to instruct people what to do with me.
Yeah,
it's like it's your problem.
Recently,
my future spouse or whoever. Yeah. It's like you figure out what to do.
Recently, there was someone who died in my family, and it's like they didn't even want a funeral. Yeah, they just wanted to.
That's common.
Be like, okay, just like don't worry about it. It's like, huh? Yeah. It's kind of baller. Yeah, it's a good way to go out. Like, I don't care.
Sure,
I'm gonna go be with Jesus, and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't need like a pity party where people come be sad about me. So
yeah, and actually with that, I've heard people have issue on the same idea of cremation and the resurrection, having issue with organ donating in the resurrection. And this is not as much popular, but actually there was a time in at least Mormon tradition, not in doctrine, but tradition, where that was seen as an issue in Mormonism. They weren't big fans of organ donating because if I die and someone gets my liver, someone gets my heart, someone gets my eyes, how's that going to work when I get resurrected? It's the same type of illogical argument. Jesus will figure it out. So personally, I'm an
Or orc donor.
Organ donor.
Organ
It's kind of
donor.
hard to say.
Yeah.
I am one of those because if
Which
I'm
is kind
dead,
of a crazy thing.
someone else can use
I'm
them.
signing this little piece of paper when I'm 16, which says like when I
my body parts are free range if I die.
yeah, it's
yes.
like they just hand this to every single little twerp coming in. Like of course they're gonna say yes.
Sure.
So yeah, if I die, the government can do whatever they want with my body.
That's right. Someone else can have my parts if they need them. So, and Jesus will find them.
So there's this thing I saw where it's like people were donating their bodies to science, right? Thinking it was gonna it was like a cancer research center or whatever. And so it's like, oh, I'm gonna die, and it's like a popular thing to do. I'll give my body to science so they can cure cancer. But this one place in particular, and I don't know any of the details. It's just funny. Actually, it's kind of terrible. But they were taking the bodies and selling them to the U.S. government. And the U.S. government was using them as like dummies for blowing up missiles, and it was discovered, and like one family was like, our grandma just got blown up by the U.S. government, our grandma's body. And so be careful if you donate your body to someone for science, because you might just be a test dummy.
If your body's gonna get sold, your loved ones better at least get the money.
For sure. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I spend money.
What do you think your body would go for? In its current state.
In its current state, pretty young and healthy. I don't know, maybe like 10 grand.
Really?
Yeah. How much? How about you?
I bet way more than that.
Really?
Well, if they're gonna just blow you up, then yeah.
Well, yeah. I
but
guess
if they're gonna
I have
like salvage you,
I have my organs.
I hear that just like a
That's true. I didn't think about my
maybe just
organs.
a kidney is like $250,000.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No,
and you have two of them.
I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't mount. I have like a normal
You
system.
don't smoke. You don't chew. You don't go with
I don't
those who
go
do.
with girls who do. No.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe like $1 million.
Maybe we might have $1 million man in front of us.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow. And that mustache. I mean, that's worth something.
They'll probably just like take this off and sell it to people as like a wig. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wow, Hagen. Well, good answer.
Thanks. There's that one.
Let's see. Let's do another question. How do you feel? No, okay, already. Okay, so in Matthew chapter 24, where it speaks of two men in a field, one is taken and the other left, what does this represent? Who goes and who is left? Is the one that is taken not saved, and the one who is taken saved? Matthew 24, do you want to read that?
Yeah, it's Matthew 24, verse 40, I think, but we'll go back to verse 36. All of Matthew chapter 24 is prophetic. It's Jesus talking about one of two things as he's bouncing throughout there, the rapture and the second coming. And context helps you distinguish the two. But in Matthew 24, starting in verse 36, he says, "But of the day and the hour no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the days that Noah entered the ark." Verse 39, "And did not know until the flood came and took them away, so also will be the coming of the Son, so also will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour that you do not expect." The whole point of that section there, that passage of Matthew 24, be ready, because Jesus can come back at any moment. That's this idea that we call imminency. And I'm a big fan of imminency because we see it taught here. And a lot of times when Jesus talks about the end times and his return, he presses that. And the reason why that's such a big deal for me is that there's actually only one view of the end times that allows for imminency. Because the word imminency means that Jesus could come back at any moment, like an unexpectancy, like you never know when it's going to take place. If you believe in a mid-trib rapture, you believe that the Antichrist is going to be revealed before Jesus comes for his church. If you believe in the post-trib, you believe that the Antichrist is going to be revealed before Jesus comes for the church. If you believe in the pre-wrath, you believe that the Antichrist is going to be revealed before Jesus comes back for his church. The only end times view that allows for Jesus to come back at any moment, meaning even today, is the pre-tribulation rapture view. It's the only one.
Yeah.
Any other view says Jesus cannot come today because the temple hasn't been rebuilt, the Antichrist hasn't been brought onto the scene, we're not halfway through the tribulation or at the end of the tribulation yet. Any other end times view, besides the pre-tribulation rapture view, says Jesus can't come today. And I had this friend, and he used this kind of jokingly. He's since gone on to be with the Lord, but he would joke around with his friends that were not pre-tribbers, and he would say, sad day, Jesus can't come today. So back in this passage, there's a little bit of debate here because when you read it, he uses Noah as an example. And he says, just like Noah and his family were on the flood, then the waters came and took them away. Then he says, so too, two men will be in the field. One will be taken, the other one left. The debate amongst Christians is the taking away the good guys or the bad guys. So either, you go back to the Noah analogy, was it Noah and his family that were taken away in the flood but safe in the ark? Or was it those who weren't on the ark that were taken away in the flood into judgment? Mm-hmm. So some read this passage and say the one that's taken away, two in the field, the one that's taken away is taken away into judgment. The one that stays is the righteous one. To me, that's the wrong interpretation. The interpretation is the ones that are getting taken are the ones in the rapture, picturing that, I believe, taken away out of the judgment. You're not taken into judgment, you're rescued from the judgment. And one of the reasons why I believe this is because that word in Matthew 24, verse number 40 for taken, that Greek word is used, I can actually tell you exactly because I have Blue Letter Bible here in front of me,
wow.
which is a free online website you can go to help you out with the Greek. It's used 50 times in the New Testament, but just a few times where it's used in Matthew. My favorite time is in Matthew chapter 1 verse 24. It says, then Joseph, being raised from his sleep, did as the angel of the Lord had bidden him. This is the Old King James. And he took unto him his wife. The same word that's describing Joseph taking Mary as his wife is the same words that's described for the one in the field that's taken away. It's a term of endearment. It literally means to be brought alongside of you. Jesus is taking us alongside of him. We are his what? His wife, his bride, and he's taking us alongside. Just like before the flood waters of the tribulation come, he is going to rescue us. He's going to take us away, just like a husband would take his bride alongside of him. Our groom, Jesus, is going to come and he's going to rescue us. He's going to take us away in the rapture before the wrath of God ever gets poured out on the earth. So
Amen.
That's my interpretation of it. There's others,
it makes sense.
But to me, that's the one.
Yeah, he's probably not taking away the unrighteous to be his bride and stuff like that. That would be a little weird.
That would be awkward.
Yeah,
Yes.
a little, yeah. And then like we're going through the tribulation. Oh, hypothetically we're in the tribulation, and then it's like, okay, only the unrighteous get affected and they get taken away to the tribulation, but we're all in it. It's just kind of awkward and weird to read it like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that probably where that interpretation makes the most sense if you have a post-tribulation view, in that the tribulation ends and then the church never really gets raptured. You get resurrected, and then those get the wicked get taken right into judgment. Yeah, but
like after the tribulation, they get taken right into judgment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like when Jesus comes back in the second coming.
Divides them.
Yeah. So one of the big things you have to really ask yourself when you're trying to figure out end times, when you're talking about the tribulation, you're talking about the second coming, you're talking about the rapture, you're talking about the millennium. One, you have to ask yourself, are these things real or not? Because they're talked about in the Bible. So either they're literal events that are going to happen in the future, or they're symbolic events that just mean something. I think it's very dangerous to interpret end times things as just symbolic, because you don't do that with other things. You don't do that with Genesis, or at least you shouldn't. You shouldn't do that with Genesis. Therefore, you shouldn't really do it with Revelation. This is real life prophetic stuff that's going to happen. The details are definitely a little gray on some things as far as exactly how it's going to work out. But the Bible is pretty clear that Jesus is going to rule and reign on this earth and establish a kingdom for 1,000 years. So you need to believe in a literal millennium, a literal 1,000-year reign of Christ on the earth. But even with that view, you can then have all sorts of different ideas and understandings as to the tribulation and this concept of the rapture. When it comes to trying to nail down and figure out the tribulation, the big question you have to ask yourself is, what is the point of it? When you can understand what the point of the tribulation is, it's pretty easy to start getting other things in line. What is the point of the tribulation? Well, it's God's wrath on a Christ-rejecting world. Okay, if it's God's wrath on a Christ-rejecting world, does a Christ-receiving church need to go through that? No. Some people argue, well, the church doesn't need to go through it, but the church is going to go through the tribulation because when Jesus comes back for his bride, he's coming back for a spotless bride. And we need to be almost like purged through the tribulation. I think that's borderline heresy because that's the point of the cross. We don't have to go through some sort of purgatory on earth in order to purge us and make us right for to be presented to him one day. That's what believing in him does through his work on the cross. So we reject that one.
Yeah.
So
and also the tribulation, you say there's like a focus on Israel, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
The major focus goes back to God's chosen people, Israel, because God has this, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit flamboyantly, but God has a problem on his hands right now in that he has unfinished business with a group of people. And it's not the church. His work with the church is actually finished in a sense. It's complete. We're finishing it out as far as more people getting saved. But God has unfinished covenant and promises that he's made with the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And that's why the second coming cannot be the same as the rapture. That's one of the reasons. Because if the second coming is the same as the rapture, and we've already established that the rapture is imminent, meaning it can happen any day, the second coming cannot happen today. God has unfinished business. God needs more time to finish his promises. And that's going to happen through a 7-year tribulation and a 1,000-year millennium. Both of those periods of time in our future have to deal with God finishing his promises to Israel. The millennial kingdom actually is about Israel.
Yeah.
It's not about us. We get to be a part of it. We get to help Jesus out. We're already in our glorified bodies, whether you're cremated or not. And you get to help rule and reign with Jesus there during the 1,000 years on this earth, but we're not the focus. The focus is God finishing out his covenant, his promises, and on that millennial kingdom stuff, a lot of that has to do with covenant that he made with David, the Davidic covenant.
For sure.
Sitting on the throne of David, ruling and reigning from the city of David, Jerusalem. That a descendant of David is going to reign for eternity in that sense. And that's going to be taking place during that millennial kingdom. So why is the tribulation happening? That's a question you need to figure out in order to understand the timing of things. Who is the tribulation involving? That's another question. When you can really sift through and get to the bottom of those two things, to me it's super simple and it's super obvious to say it has nothing to do with the church. It has nothing to do with the bride of Christ. And that's why we get taken out before it even begins, before the first seal ever even gets broken in Revelation chapter 6. So the one that's taken away, I believe it's the church. It's us in that Matthew 24.
Well, there you go. Fact check true. One more question maybe for today. Not quite sure how to ask this, but because it's quite a long question. But basically, Hagen, how do you feel about worshiping on Sunday, and maybe what would you say to someone who's very adamant that Saturday is the day we should worship because Saturday, after all, is the Sabbath, and maybe someone who believes that the church has been corrupted early on to believe that Sunday and not Saturday, and maybe they have historical research behind them that says, well, in this year, Constantine said we're going to worship on Sunday, and so they see it as Sunday worship as a corruption, and Saturday we should go back to Saturday. It's the true day to worship. What would you say to that person?
I believe you should worship Jesus on Saturday and on Sunday and on Monday and on Tuesday and on Wednesday and on Thursday and on Friday.
Cop out.
That's my answer to that.
Yeah, there you go.
Because it's there's this weird fight amongst some people that really think that because we choose to worship because we choose to gather as a church on Sunday morning, that we think Sunday is more special than any of the other days, and that's just not it.
Yeah.
That's not what we're proclaiming at all by choosing to gather on Sunday. It's in our immediate culture, it's convenient. Most people have Sundays off, right?
Yes.
So it's like, well, when do you want to gather? Tuesday morning at 9 a.m.? It's like, that's a problem for almost everyone.
It should be a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be at work. Yeah. So it's like, it's just convenience to be able to meet on Sunday. But to get this idea in your head that God has a day esteemed above another for believers to get together and worship him is foolishness, I think. So that question really goes back to challenging, what is the Sabbath? What was the point of the Sabbath? What was the point of the Sabbath in the Old Testament? What did Jesus then say about it in the New Testament? And how does that apply to us today? Because really the heart of that question is not how come Sunday, it's why not Saturday? And I know many churches that have Saturday night services, and we tried it once here before my time, and it just never took off. But I have zero problem with you worshiping Jesus on a Saturday. I actually think you should, as well as all the other days of the week. But for you to think that Saturday, because it is the Sabbath, is the designated day for God's people, the church to come together and worship him, show me where that is actually a thing, because I don't think it is. Mm-hmm. And maybe an argument would be, well, as you study the New Testament, you see a lot of times, particularly in maybe like Acts, where Paul or Peter are going to places on the Sabbath. And yeah, that's because they're going to Jewish people to share with them the gospel. They're going to synagogues. So of course they're going to be gathering on the Sabbath day. They're Jewish. They're going there to where the people already are to teach them about Jesus. Jesus rose again on the first day of the week, which is a Sunday. So one could argue that we meet on Sunday because that's the day Jesus rose from the dead. So we're commemorating that. You do see some instances in the New Testament where the church starts gathering together on the first day of the week. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I'm very confident that they are not just gathering together on Sunday in the Bible. Meaning they're doing what we think of when we call church consistently, and they are not concerned with what day it is. Yeah.
Well, especially in like the early church, like they were literally like selling all their stuff and like living together.
Right.
Like they were
every
single day. Like literally, like that was a little extreme.
Right.
And it didn't turn out. I mean, they lost all their money doing that because none of them got to work. But like they were literally just doing stuff together every single day, which is like, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do the Sabbath thing because we're not under. Okay. We don't have to do the Sabbath thing because we're not under the law. Would that be your go-to answer, or what would you say as far as like?
Yeah, we don't have to do the Sabbath thing because we're not under the law because Jesus fulfilled it.
For sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
that's just pretty clear and simple to me. Yeah.
Yeah. But the problem, and I know because I know where this question comes from, there's a mindset. This comes from Seventh-day Adventism, and not every Seventh-day Adventist church or believer in that system holds to this any longer. But it used to be the mindset was that Christians that worship on Sunday have taken the mark of the beast. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And most of Seventh-day Adventists today do not hold that view anymore, but a fundamental Seventh-day Adventist sure would, because that is in their original doctrine, and that's a whole nother can of worms to read. It's like, read about the mark of the beast and tell me how that would be Sunday. Mm-hmm. One, the beast ain't even on the earth yet, or he's maybe on the earth, but he's not revealed.
Yeah.
So how's that the mark of the beast? And then 2, it just doesn't fit.
Obama hasn't announced that he's a yet.
Yeah, that's right. It just doesn't fit for it to be what's described for it. And it's a wacky interpretation of Scripture to try to validate how Sunday's the bad day, but Saturday's the right day. And we're more right for meeting on Saturday than Sunday is the mindset. And that's just not the case. Around here, we do church on Sunday. We do church again on Monday, and that it's young adults on Monday nights. That's just as much church as Sunday is. Then we do Wednesday night midweek service. We do Thursday night youth group church. You have everything you need: worships, Bible study, people getting together and fellowshipping. So it's like we do church almost every day of the week around here. So
yeah, lots of church, for sure. Because church isn't a building
that's right.
at 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. Church is God's people getting together.
Yes.
We are the church. So
absolutely.
For sure. Very simple, very easy. Maybe one more quick one, Hagen.
Sure. Just
one more rapid fire. Question about being emotional during worship. Is it okay to be emotional during worship? Where's the line? Does it depend on the person? When should you step in and maybe ask someone to tone it down? Is there ever a point where we should tone it down? Are we not emotional enough? All those questions.
There should be zero emotion in worship. Zero. How dare you get emotional when you're worshiping the God who saved you? Yeah, I think there should be plenty of emotion.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're worshiping the God who saved you.
Mm-hmm. Do you think sometimes the problem isn't a couple people getting too emotional. The bigger problem is most people not being emotional at all. Would you maybe say it like that?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe this person wouldn't be so distracting if everyone was just really singing and pouring their heart out.
Yeah.
This one person wouldn't be a big deal because everyone would be singing. Yeah, and people sing, but
sure,
people do the mouth moving thing where they're just kind of mumbling the words or just kind of zoning out. And I've done, I do that all the time. Just kind of count.
You zone out during worship?
I count the lights in on the ceiling.
That's crazy.
But try to be purposeful. It's like, no, I'm gonna worship, and I think there's something very healthy because I've been thinking. I asked my one friend asked me this deep question at 11 o'clock. We were on the phone. He was like, because he was talking about how he struggling to find a church, and he doesn't like gathering together. He can maybe more not outgoing, but reserved, like
introvert.
Yeah. And it's like, I understand that. And he just doesn't like, the whole worship thing too much. I understand that. But he was like, what are we even doing when we're worshiping? And it's like, well, I think it's like, then why are we even singing? Like, what's the point of singing? It's like, those are good questions. But it's like, I think we're just like, there's something really healthy about getting together as God's people and just saying these things that are true about God. I think sometimes we get so I think the song part's almost secondary. Like, yeah, we got the instruments and the singing and the song, and it sounds good. That's cool. But the main thing is that we are saying these truths about God and what He's done for us. And like, there's a very healthy thing when we get together and do that together. And I think, the whole it sounding pretty and us singing together, like the singing part, I think secondary to the fact that it's like we're just saying these truths out loud, proclaiming them loudly together. So yeah,
that's good. We did this past Sunday. We did one of my favorite worship songs, "Holy Forever."
Listening.
And Josh did that one, and I'm super glad he did it. But where was I going with that?
I don't know.
The saying the same thing, like 1,000 generations bowing down in worship to sing the song of ages to the Lamb, all who've gone before us and all who will believe, sing the song of ages to the Lamb. And it's just like, and the angels cry holy, all creation cries holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever, may your people sing holy. And it's just, I just like that song because it just like encompasses what you just said of like, we are joining with angels. We are joining with creation. We're joining with saints who have already died as far as they spent their life worshiping Jesus. We are spending our time worshiping Jesus. Those who aren't even here yet but will believe are going to worship Jesus. And we're like somehow in the Kazakh sphere of time are like coming together as one to do this thing that is so unique and that the world has nothing like it.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Yeah, I that makes me think of the idea of like the cloud of witnesses, like cheer this idea that like there's all these like saints who are dead and like they're cheering us on, and I just love this idea. It's like when you do something little good for God, like there's this great cloud of witnesses watching you. Like heck yeah, Jordan just picked up that piece of garbage off the ground. I just love. It's just like like it's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, Hagen, it's been a good chit chat.
It has been a good time, yes.
Hopefully, when you guys watch this, you say, man, they look good. Man, they sound good.
Yeah.
So
it's possible it's not going as well as we think, but we'll find out here in a little bit.
We will.
So, yes.
So cool. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us. Hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day.
See you later.